Welcome back to Where North End Walk. This is going to be a bumper episode. Ryan Lowe is gone. I'm pretty sure our panel said give him a chance last week. No, he's gone, and we are talking about who should replace him. We're also going to review the Sheffield United game and look ahead to this weekend's game against Swansea. Welcome to Where North End Walk. We've got Ash and Etienne all lined up. It's going to be a bumper one. Click the subscribe button and we'll roll some titles. Welcome back, Ash, and welcome back, Etienne. Thank you for joining us on Where North End Walk. I'll be honest, Ash and Etienne, I was fearing this chat this week, given how poor Preston were, but we can almost forget about it now, can't we? How are you? First of all, Ash, are you
very happy?
Very happy.
Yeah, it's a good day.
We're recording this on the very day that Ryan Lowe's been given his marching orders. Etienne, did you see it coming when you woke up this morning?
No, I was fully expecting him to still be in charge by the end of tonight. I was expecting to be a lot more angry than I am right now. So
let's focus on that decision then that's been made. Ash, has been made by mutual consent. What do you read into that?
I'm not sure whether that's true or not. I listened to the interview with Peter Ridsdale today, and some of the comments that he made, whether they were intended or not, suggested that there were more issues than they were letting on to previously. But it works out well for both parties, doesn't it, if it's mutual consent, and saves us money on paying the fella off. So good news.
Yeah, absolutely. It does, yeah. And then if you will have seen, I'm sure, that Alan Brown and his wife on Instagram liked the Instagram post that said he'd left, which tells you everything you need to know, doesn't you, Etienne, about his relationship with your captain, who, by the way, Sunderland fans were glowing about in his performance at Cardiff.
Yeah, and especially when you look at Leighton Stewart liked it as well, and the reactions to Liam Miller signing for Hull and the whole position debate going on there, it kind of suggests that there's been a bit of a breakdown in the dressing room. And whilst it's beneficial for both parties that it's mutual consent, everyone's just annoyed that it didn't happen earlier. You can have all these inhibitions that you want, but as soon as you start doubting, you should have left the club a bit earlier.
Yeah, it just wrangle, doesn't it, with fans, Ash, that you've had 6 weeks off, you've had pre-season signings. Obviously, one game is not too much, but why do you think this wasn't done when you finished the season in May?
I think a lot of that comes down to the board wanting to give him another chance. I honestly, I've read today a few times that he's done it on purpose. I don't believe that for a second. I think he's seen the reaction to the end of the game, which let's be honest, it wasn't that bad of a result on Friday. And I think he's heard the boos and he's had a few words with a few fans apparently, and he's just thought it's just not for him anymore, which, is fair enough.
Yeah. Deepdale isn't known for being a toxic place, but Etienne, was that as bad as it felt on Friday as from your time there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really got that bad. It's never been as bad as it was on Friday night. I mean, it just felt like fans had had enough. We had had enough during the Leicester game in May. And seeing the same performance replicated, it doesn't sit well with the fans. It didn't sit well with me, and I don't think it's ever really been as bad as that from my memory.
There are those, Ash, with sympathy for Ryan Lowe, not many, that say, well, what's he supposed to do? He's been, he's had no cash really to work with. He's got one of the lowest budgets in the league. He's actually, you finished well under him in comparison to budgets. If you mirror it up and look at the teams he's finished above that have had much bigger budgets. So how do you rate the job that he's done? Take away the last maybe 4 months.
The finish is decent. I think he has been backed more than most managers in my memory anyway. Yeah, it's a tough one because I think he comes across as being so unlikable. It almost taints the work that he's done. and what he's like as a person outside of football, I don't know. He could be the greatest guy in the world, but for us, he just hasn't been. But I think it's silly to say it's been absolutely dreadful because the finishes have been there. The style of football has been terrible. So I'm going to go middle of the road and go 5. It would have been a lot higher had I been entertained at any point over the past 3 years.
Okay. Etienne, what, you going to go any higher than 5?
No, probably about the same. I feel like the results that he's got under us are just the surface doesn't tell the whole story. A lot of people will see that we finished 10th, which is on paper brilliant and a lot higher than we have been in previous seasons. But at the same time, I think I enjoyed about 3 games last year. So it's just, I go 5. I mean, he's taken us, he's kept us away from relegation. To be fair to him, we've stayed in the same place. He has been backed a lot more. Middle of the road.
Okay. Caretaker managers in charge then for both the Sunderland and the Swansea game. We hear, so that indicates that an appointment is soon. Do you think that they've been thinking about this and have got some names stored up? I mean, Ridsdale's just, give him his faults, but he's not an unintelligent man. Do you think they've got people in mind? And if so, Ash, who do you think they are?
I have this feeling on Robbie Fowler. It's been mentioned previously, and he's been about the club. My reaction the same. But yeah, I think could potentially be him. We're all dreaming of Moyes. Let's be honest. I think that pretty much every fan that remembers Moyes, especially, would be massive. Whether that's realistic, I don't know. But Ridsdale always says he has a little black book with names, doesn't he? So I'm sure he'll have somebody or a few people in mind.
Yeah, the one of the names that's been mentioned already alongside Moyes is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Frank Lampard. I think those names come out every single time. Or Heckingbottom, who's obviously available. Would you take any of those names I've just mentioned, Etienne?
Heckingbottom was kind of in my top 3. I think the only issue I'd have with him coming in is he likes to play 5-back. And the past 3 years, no, thank you. I do not want to see any wing backs at my club in the next couple of years. Ole, I mean, he seems to always have a tainted reputation, but I don't think he did that bad at Manchester United. He had that season, he finished 2nd. And I think to pull someone like that, no matter what his reputation is, would be, really good for us. But he hasn't been in work for quite a while now. So it's not the most glamorous set of names, but Heckingbottom is up there for me.
Would you prefer a solid Championship manager who's been here, done it before, like Heckingbottom, Ash, or would you? I mean, not that Rooney's going to be the name, but do you know what I mean? A good footballer turned manager, give them a chance, but like company with Burnley, and try and get Preston kind of into headlines a little bit more, which like Plymouth are at the moment.
I'm not a fan of the big name management choices, especially not Frank Lampard. But yeah, I think somebody that has experience. I'm not a fan of Heckingbottom either. I know he has experience getting promoted, but I don't think it even necessarily needs to be Championship experience. Just somebody that has good managerial experience and plays a more attacking formation. I want Des Buckingham from Oxford, but we know that's not going to happen. Let's be real. But just somebody that has a strong game plan and can adapt to other teams if needed.
Okay. Any names then that you want to put out there yourself, Ash?
Skubala is my number 1.
Okay.
I think he's been very, very impressive at Lincoln. He's got flexibility. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how he does this season, losing a couple of big names like Elias Sorensen, for example. He's gone to Huddersfield Town, and it'd be interesting to see how he adapts to that. But I just think, I don't know why he's not been mentioned. I think he'd be a very good pickup.
Okay. Yeah, I know his Leeds connections or Leeds fans very highly of him. Ash, who's top of your list?
Aside from Moyes, it's a bit of a struggle, to be honest. There's not anybody that I think is a standout candidate, and majority of the ones that I've heard so far, I've almost winced at. But yeah, I don't know enough about Skubala to pass judgment. I haven't watched Lincoln. But I also wouldn't be opposed to maybe a European or a Nordic manager. Think outside the box, maybe.
Okay, all right, but he's gone. You can you can celebrate. It's not even really worth talking about the game because, of course, we're going to see different. What was your view of how you set up there, Etienne? Because to be fair, Sheffield United were on top, starting to get on top, but until your goalie decided to go colourblind and pass the ball to the wrong shirt, didn't think you were being overawed. Did you have the same view of it?
It looked like we're getting really frustrated and running out of ideas really quickly. I mean, the first goal was really unfortunate, and I think it may have got into their heads a little bit because after that we just did not look impressive. Second half, same. You know, we had the really bad mistake from Freddie Woodman. It's inexcusable almost, but if he just maybe slowed down a little bit and tried not to play too quick, there was an option on the other side of the pitch, which, you know, the score could have stayed 1-0 and we could have got back into the game. But it's just the same old story sometimes when we're playing these big teams. We get into our own head and we just end up... We didn't get dominated to say. I mean, it was almost balanced in the possession, but it was just not a good watch at all.
No. But you're not bottom anymore. Ash, there's a few pundits predicting that Preston will struggle now. Did you see enough in the game in terms of quality? Forget the tactics, but did you see enough in the quality to suggest you'll be all right?
Yeah, I think they need an uplift, and I think a lot of it is mentality based. I'd be gobsmacked if that squad finished anywhere less than mid-table, which I know is our usual. It's too good to be in trouble.
No. Okay. All right, then we'll have a look at a couple of takes from the game. I think you'll probably agree with them all. They're not very complimentary, you know. We're going down. Lowe hasn't changed a bit. Worst manager in our history. Foxism and Woodman has reactions of a slug. Etienne, I don't think.
Definitely way over the top. Low ball hasn't changed a bit. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But worst manager in our history. I think Frankie McAvoy, our last one, was a bit worse. I definitely didn't enjoy much. I think our fan base, I've come to know, is very reactionary. It's just, if something happens, it's like, oh, the whole world, we're going down, we're finishing last, and then we win, and it's like, we're winning the league. And it just gets on my nerves a bit because it does bring down the whole atmosphere around the club. I'd definitely say that was over the top, though. The Woodman thing is completely acceptable. Like, the ball's not straight at him, he doesn't save anything.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about goalkeepers then, shall we? Because each week with you, going to review your signings and where you are in terms of strength and depth. So next week we'll look at central defenders. Let's have a look at goalkeepers then. Oh, I'm sorry. Ash, where do you stand on Freddie Woodman? I'm still convinced there's a good goalkeeper in there somewhere, but his concentration levels sometimes leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, as a person, love the guy. Think he's great. From what I've heard, great in the dressing room. He seems to be great with the fans, especially the younger ones. I see him constantly taking time with people. In terms of his abilities, I'm not sold. I'd much prefer someone like Iverson, someone that we know is going to save shots. I think that's crucial at this point. And the biggest concern for me is the distribution. He looks like he doesn't know what he wants to do with the ball. But I'm glad he threw the ball to Sheffield United because we are where we are because of it. So,
yeah, very true. Yeah, very true indeed. Okay, and what about your backups, Etienne? If Woodman gets injured, where do you think you are in terms of what's there?
it's kind of the same story with Cornell. Personality, dressing room, brilliant. But actual shot stopping ability, we've not seen much of him. And in the games that we have, we lost against Swansea. He failed to keep every shot on target out. Salford, he could have saved both shots that went in. And we just haven't seen really enough of him. He didn't feature at all, if I'm remembering correctly, during pre-season. And then James Pradic is just such an unknown quantity. He had a loan spell at Bamber Bridge, and he just keeps seeming on going back there. He almost came on against Leeds last season, but we didn't get to see him. I'm not confident if Woodman was to get injured, because at least Freddie does have that championship experience, and we know that when he can be on his game, he can be a good goalkeeper. The other two options just aren't that good.
Okay, all right. So do we need to invest in a new goalkeeper, or are we're just going to... Is there more important priorities, Ash?
Yeah, I think there is certainly bigger issues, maybe a central defender, another wing back. For what it's worth, I think Pradic, I've seen him a couple of times and he looks like he has it. I think he is I think he's a better backup option than Cornell, because I saw Cornell pre-season against Salford and I could have played better. He looked completely clueless. Again, like the guy, but I think if we could invest, I think we've looked at Sam Tickle, is it, from Wigan?
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how good he is, but he seems to get good reviews. So I do think the option is there to replace Woodman.
Yeah, I think Wigan fans are going to let that Tickle go for anything less than a small fortune. He's very highly rated there. Okay, great. Let's focus on Swansea then for a second. They lost to Middlesbrough at the weekend too, so two teams looking for the first points. Their fans are not happy with their performance either. Would you take a point now, Etienne?
I would want 3, obviously, but I've got reasons for that. Swansea looked, they just did not look creative at all. They looked really slow and sluggish. I don't get it about Luke Williams, and nor do I get really the Swansea playoff push that their fans were talking about. I think a lot of their squad is still unproven, and I always expect them to start slow. And I would want 3 points, but with the caretaker situation, I think a point would do.
Yeah, they've got some fantastic fast midfielders now that it's signed. But defensively, an absolute shambles. Ash, would you take a point?
I want 3. I don't see why we shouldn't get 3. I think that from what I've heard today, we're going to change formation. So I feel like the shackles are off in a sense, and there's a lot less pressure, especially for the next 2 games till someone else comes in. So I'd like to see us just go at them and get a result.
Okay. Very often there's a new manager bounce, isn't there? So we will wait to see that. However, there's a game before that, Sunderland at home. Will obviously will have happened before anyone watches this, but so we don't know the results. But could you care less about the Etienne? Would you even be happy to Sunderland just knock you out the cup?
As long as it's not an embarrassment, I'm not bothered. Hopefully we'll play, a few players that need a bit more game time. Just get them, adjusted to get their fitness levels up. Sunderland will probably do the same, but I'm not bothered if we lose.
Yeah, okay. Same Ash, couldn't care less about this one.
I've bought tickets. I've just bought tickets this evening, so I'm hoping we win. I'd like to see some fringe players, especially Kean Best. I think he needs to get some game time. I want us to win every game. So let's go and do something. Okay,
fair enough. And just finally, where does the Carabao Cup sit with you in terms of priorities? If I was to offer you a choice, it's a hypothetical one, and it's unlikely to happen, but just to gauge where the cup ranks for you, Etienne, as a young fan. If I offered you promotion or a cup win, what would you take?
Promotion all day, every day. Cup win doesn't even come close.
If it was a final against Blackpool and you won, let's say 6-0 at Wembley, would that change it?
I don't know, because if we did finally get promoted, they wouldn't be able to hold their Premier League season above our heads, and we'd probably be a bigger club in that regard. So I think I'm still going to take promotion, though.
All right, fair enough. Still wrangles that, doesn't it? Ash?
If you were to say FA Cup, I'd be more tempted, but I feel like one season in the Premier League sets the club up for another 3 or 4 seasons financially. So it has to be that, even as much as I hate Blackpool.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Thank you very much so much for joining us. Hopefully this time next week we'll have a clearer idea of who's in Mr. Ridsdale's little black book. Of course, if there is an appointment, then obviously please come and join us sooner than next week. And of course, next week we'll talk to you about central defenders, if you've got any that we can talk about. That is. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Cheers, fellas.